Tonight, Hamilton police search for a 22-year-old man wanted for first-degree murder in connection to the death of his father.
Police believe this was a targeted incident.
More on who police are looking for and what we've learned about the investigation. Plus,
no one cares. Like, they just shrug when your car gets stolen.
Imagine your vehicle stolen not once, but 4 times. Ottawa faces increasing pressure to do more. Plus, it's football's biggest night, how one GTA shelter is bringing all the Super Bowl fanfare to its residents.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Thanks for joining us. That's where we start tonight. The fanfare, the food, the halftime show, and of course the big game just wrapping up moments ago. The celebration still happening on the field. The Kansas City Chiefs claiming its 4th Super Bowl victory in overtime. What a nail-biter. You're looking at one of many spots across the province welcoming fans tonight for football's biggest night. Let's be honest, it wasn't just about the game. Lots of people tuning in for a certain pop star, you know, Taylor Swift, cheering on her boyfriend with the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, close to home, one GTA shelter opened its doors and put on quite the football-themed feast for their clients. Patrick Swadden was there.
Football has a few new fans, courtesy of this Super Bowl watch party at Good Shepherd Ministries, a shelter in Regent Park.
It's new to me, but it's more like rugby, but there's more additional rules. So it's a new game that I want to learn and enjoy.
And while you're learning about downs, completions, and sacks, why not grab a little grub? With Rabba Fine Foods providing the spread for the 8th Super Bowl in a row, helping feed the 100 people Good Shepherd says are staying in the shelter.
There's a lot of giving during December, but February is a very cold season, and it happens to be the Super Bowl. So it's a great opportunity.
And a chance to get people together who are often facing challenges.
Being able to offer something like this to the people that live here so that they can feel a sense of community.
Good Shepherd and Rabba Fine Foods put on a pretty typical Super Bowl spread. We've got fries, we've got onion rings, pizza here, pierogies. The cabbage rolls, not as big a hit, but then of course, wings, always a hit.
All of the food is too much tasty. It's good. Thanks so much.
This is a new experience, a new culture. We are enjoying it so far.
Despite the fun, the numbers tell a story of food insecurity in the city.
I'm noticing that this year it's actually busier than it has been in previous years, which maybe is more unfortunate than fortunate.
Councillor Chris Moyes saying more companies need to step up.
The food banks that we have across the city are actually full, in the sense that people go to them and empty them out.
But for the staff at Good Shepherd, they're just glad someone is.
Food insecurity is a big thing, right? And we know that there's been conversations around the big grocers should do more, right? But yet they don't.
If it wasn't for those partnerships, wasn't for the donations, if it wasn't for the people in the community and even the private companies, we wouldn't be able to do this.
A tradition the shelter hopes to continue.
More than 7 months we live here. It's good. Let's give the future hope.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
In other news tonight, Hamilton police are searching for a suspect, a man believed to be armed and dangerous. He's wanted on first-degree murder charges in connection to the death of his father.
We believe it was a targeted incident. Mr. Chima Singh had attended the area prior. He was there approximately half an hour, and there was an altercation.
Officers could still be seen today outside this home in Stony Creek. Yellow police tape blocking it off with bloodstains seen along the front walk and chalk marking potential evidence for investigators. Last night, police say a 56-year-old man with severe injuries was found. He was later pronounced dead in hospital. He's being identified as Kuldeep Singh. Now, that is the alleged suspect, his son, you're seeing right now on your screen. Police are not saying how the man died, but they did say a weapon was not recovered. Again, the alleged suspect is Singh's son. Police say consider him armed and dangerous. Turning to some other news now, in Toronto, a man is fighting for his life in hospital after a fire broke out at a downtown apartment building. Crews responding to the 12th floor unit just after 5:30. It was fully engulfed in flames. One person managed to escape to the balcony. Now, that person, a man, was rescued by firefighters, then taken by paramedics to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The fire is now out, but police are telling drivers, if you're in the area, expect delays. Well, turning now to a disturbing story developing tonight for our neighbors to the west. 5 people are dead, including 3 children. RCMP in southern Manitoba warning people that the details of this investigation are difficult to hear. Karen Pauls has more on what we've learned in just the last few hours.
Hours later, the highway blockaded. You can see the blackened car and ambulances and RCMP forensics officers. Police say a 29-year-old man was taken into custody here.
Pretty sad, yeah. But I mean, there's nothing we can do. Probably, if I would have stopped, there was nothing I could have done anyways.
Trent Lapine and his 10-year-old daughter drove by the car around 9:20 Sunday morning. It wasn't burning at the time, and he thought it was just an abandoned, empty car. But not long after,
I saw the cops coming from Winnipeg, go down 248, and then we stopped at Timmy's and got gas and got lunch breakfast for the girls. And now outside, another cop car came, and then an ambulance came.
Earlier in the day, RCMP had responded to a report of a hit and run on the highway about 45 minutes south of here. They found the body of a woman in a ditch. And in the nearby town of Carman, the body of another woman discovered in a house. RCMP didn't provide many details, but confirmed the adult male in custody and the 5 people who died all knew each other.
I want to express my condolences to the families and friends who have lost a loved one today. As a parent, I simply can't imagine the enormity of your loss. The community of Carman and surrounding areas will also be grieving as they have lost some of their youngest residents in such a tragic way.
The mayor of Carman, a small town of about 3,000, says people there are in shock.
Well, it was kind of mind-numbing to realize that something like this could happen in our community.
Police say there is no threat to the public, but there will be a lot of questions in the days ahead. Karen Pauls, CBC News, near St. Eustache, Manitoba.
Well, there is no shortage of examples. People across Ontario, right across the country, seeing their vehicles stolen from their driveways, or worse, those frightening carjackings. As JP Tasker shows us, it comes as Ottawa faces increasing pressure to tame the escalating issue. He begins with one woman's frustration.
Kristen Shunsell says owning her dream car has turned into a nightmare.
I bought my car 2 years ago, and it's been gone 40% of the time.
Her 2019 Range Rover has been stolen twice from her Toronto home. And just last week, car thieves hit again.
I'm not a fancy car person, and I absolutely regret all of it. Yeah, we're selling. If we get the car back, it's gone.
Canada is in the throes of an auto theft crisis. StatsCan data suggests about 100,000 vehicles were stolen in 2022. That's a 25% surge in a single year.
It is happening in all parts of the country with no end in sight.
Insurance companies paid out an eye-popping $1.2 billion to cover stolen cars in 2022. That's forced them to raise rates.
If the situation were to continue as is or to grow, I would say that the breaking point is coming soon for consumers.
On the heels of an auto summit in Ottawa last week, the federal justice minister says the government is prepared to take a harder line.
People are feeling frightened right now, and it's not a good situation, and we need to be tackling it.
The government is considering stiffer criminal sanctions and new laws to punish carjacking, which has also surged.
People have also talked to me about potentially raising the maximum penalty and also looking at when weapons are involved. So these are all factors that I'm considering quite closely.
Justin Trudeau has made Canada a playground for organized crime, money laundering, foreign interference.
The Conservative leader is pitching mandatory jail time for repeat offenders and bail changes to keep accused criminals behind bars while they wait for a trial. Shunsell says any change would be an improvement.
Just no one cares. Like, they just shrug when your car gets stolen.
The major political parties can't afford to ignore this issue. The suburban areas hit hardest by car theft or swing ridings in the next federal election. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
You know, last night we were talking about the kids wanting to make snowmen. Today we were playing baseball. Ward Anderson is here with our first look at the forecast.
Well, you know what? I know my kids aren't going to like hearing about the spring-like temperatures because they both got sleds for Christmas. But we have been experiencing those warmer temperatures, of course. As we know, last week on Friday, we got up to almost 16 degrees, one of the 5 warmest February days on record for us here in Ontario and the GTA. And since 1991, this is the warmest first 10 days of February that we've seen. In fact, warmer than it was all of January. But that is going to change. We have Arctic cold air that's coming southbound, south and east, coming down towards us, and that's going to cool things off a little bit. But not a lot of activity as far as precipitation goes. Monday, we're looking at mostly clear skies, keeping it right above freezing. But then on Tuesday, we could be seeing some snow flurries coming down from the north a little bit, but also we are tracking this nor'easter that is coming up from the States that could clip us over on the west side of the GTA. But in general, we're still sitting well below what we should be when it comes to snow totals and not looking at anything significant for the rest of the week.
Okay, thanks, Ward. A pro-Palestinian car rally and vigil in Durham region today, calling on the federal government to speed up the temporary resident visa program for extended family members of Palestinian Canadians. The program was announced back in December and started accepting applications last month. Members of one family spoke to the media about their efforts trying to bring 8 loved ones to Canada and their growing concern with the latest news of Israel's planned offensive in Rafah.
My mother, my sister, my brother, and 4 of his kids and wife are all trapped in Gaza. There's no place for my family to be in, so there's no safe place.
She says she tried submitting an application for her family last month, but she's still waiting for a code so she can continue the process. Demonstrators are also calling on the government to boost the number of people it brings over. Now, the government had set a cap of 1,000 people, describing the volatile situation on the ground in Gaza and the challenges of getting people out. Meanwhile, Israel's military says it has rescued 2 hostages in a raid in Rafah. It says the 2 men, 60 and 70 years old, were kidnapped by Hamas during the October 7th attacks. They said they appear to be in good condition tonight. Let's go to Katie Nicholson next. She's reporting on the situation in Rafah, where there are now more than 1 million Gazans. Many say there is nowhere else to run.
Leila Abu Mustafa can do little to soothe her daughter, and even less to protect her. I have 2 daughters with disabilities, she says. I can't carry them around. I'm not moving. Mustafa among more than 1 million Palestinians clustered in Rafah with nowhere to go, ahead of a planned Israeli ground invasion of what is essentially an overcrowded refugee camp.
It is highly likely that such an expansion of military operations would result in a bloodbath for children and families.
Aid groups whose workers are also trapped aren't alone in their condemnation of the plan. The EU, the UN, and heads of neighboring countries have all warned of dire consequences. Egypt, on the other side of this border, even threatening to pull out of the Camp David Accords, a landmark treaty that brought stability to the region for nearly 50 years. There's also the question of where refugees can go. The borders are closed, and major centers like Gaza City laid to waste, an utterly unlivable and still an active war zone. In a Sunday call, the U.S. president made clear to his Israeli counterpart no Rafah ground assault should proceed without a credible plan to ensure the safety of those sheltered there. Benjamin Netanyahu appeared to agree to that.
And I've instructed the army accordingly to give us a plan, a dual plan. One, to vacate the population, the civilian population, because we're not fighting them, we're fighting the terrorists. And secondly, to destroy those remaining battalions. Victory is within reach.
But at this Tel Aviv vigil, among those whose loved ones were taken hostage by Hamas 4 months ago, a different idea of what constitutes victory.
Most of us here at Hostage Square just want a hostage deal. We want our people to come home.
But any hopes for hostage negotiations, Hamas has warned, would die with a Rafa assault. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's Court of Appeal is set to release its ruling on Bill 124 tomorrow. Now, that's the controversial provincial law that capped wages for public sector workers to 1% for 3 years. It was brought in back in 2019. Labor groups and unions fought back. And in 2022, the Ontario Superior Court struck it down as unconstitutional. The government appealed, and tomorrow we are expecting to hear the court's decision. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow's first budget since winning the city's top job will come to council for one final debate this week, and it could mean the city sees its biggest tax hike in more than 25 years.
This is the single most important vote that'll come to City Council this year. It affects everything else that is to follow.
The mayor says she tried to strike a balance. Her budget calls for a 9.5% property tax increase to help pay for services, and she says it'll address the city's $1.8 billion budget deficit. Now, council's debate could largely focus on things not included in the budget, such as cuts to windrow clearing and a request from police for more funding. Council's final budget debate goes Wednesday morning. An already busy downtown Toronto stretch is about to see even more construction. Clara Pasica has more on what's expected to be potentially a painful few months for commuters.
The pylons are ready to go again on King Street West. Starting tomorrow, Dufferin to Shaw will be down to one lane as the city replaces an ancient piece of infrastructure, a water main that's 146 years old. Then by mid-May, work kicks off to replace the streetcar track all along the same stretch.
It's a mess. We can't even get onto our streetcar on a good day. So with additional construction, this is going to be a nightmare. When I drive, I have to like leave at like 2 hours before. But I'm guessing now that it's going to be 3 hours.
The mayor says there's purpose to the pain.
I know it's difficult, but we have to fix the water. Part of the reason is because there are so many new developments in the neighborhood. We have to increase the water capacity.
She says a major change coming later this month that allows commuters who take both GO Transit and the TTC to only pay one fare could be a saving grace for some.
The good thing is this, that the exhibition GO station, which serves the Liberty Village area, you can take that to Union and then from Union transfer up to different streetcar or subways. But because of the one fare program, you don't have to pay twice. So that's a lot more convenient.
Not every commuter is convinced that will work for them, but this transit advocate says the work needs to be done.
If we want to ensure that we have functioning infrastructure that's growing and keeping pace with our growing population and growing economy, we need to make those hard choices.
Clara Pasica, CBC News.
Today, the World Sick Organization of Canada put together Valentine's care packages for women's shelters.
We usually do this just before Valentine's Day. It's a day of vulnerability for those that are living in the shelters, and so we want to give them some love. So the care packages include, Valentine's Day items like chocolates and candy, as well as some necessities.
For Toronto area women's shelters will be getting the kits that were put together today. The event is part of the 1 Billion Rising campaign. Now that's a call to action based on the statistic that 1 in 3 women will be assaulted in their lifetime. It is the last weekend leading up to Valentine's Day, and love was certainly in the air. 300 couples gathered today to celebrate milestone anniversaries, and we got some tips on how to have a long and lasting marriage.
Tolerance, give and take, consideration. I think to defer to your spouse more often than not, and to avoid arguments, and to have real love, show real love.
Years of marriage was celebrated among these lovebirds at St. Michael's Cathedral in Toronto today. Couples renewing their vows, and they were honored with a special blessing, a very sweet occasion. You're looking live at Windsor now, mostly cloudy there. Feels like -2 tomorrow. Looking like you'll see 5 degrees and some sunshine. So maybe we're not shattering any 86-year-old records, but it'll still feel quite nice. Ward Anderson is back with us now. Hey, Ward.
Well, Shannon, we're not going to be seeing the warm temperatures like we did last week where it felt like spring, but we luckily won't be seeing a lot of the blizzard-like weather or snow that we often get this time of year. It is going to get colder, however. We've got this Arctic air that's going to be coming down south and east, and it's going to make its way to us and bring our temperatures a little bit closer to normal. But for Monday, we're still looking at generally sunny skies with temperatures right around 0 or a little above, little below. Up in northern Ontario, going to be waking up to snow flurries, sitting right there around freezing and below, but nothing we're not really used to. I wouldn't call it a significant snow event. Even going into Tuesday, we're keeping an eye on a couple of things. We'll have some snow flurries making its way from the north down through the southern parts of the province over to the east to our nation's capital. And we're keeping an eye on this nor'easter coming up from the states that could clip the GTA and around the Golden Horseshoe and bring us some more snow, but again, not significant. We also don't know yet. We're still tracking that to see if that nor'easter will actually affect us or not. But we're sitting below average when it comes to our snow. Usually we're sitting at well over 100 centimeters by now. Not even looking at more than 40 at this point. We may not even see 60 centimeters of snow this season at all. Our lakes are barely even covered, sitting at over 3% when we're normally sitting at about 40% ice coverage right about now.
Well, fingers crossed for your kids. They get some snow so they can go tobogganing. Well, that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Before we go, though, we want to take you back to some Lunar New Year festivities that were taking place across the province. More than 1 billion people around the world marking the occasion with festivities highlighting the Year of the Dragon, a mystical creature symbolizing change and creativity. We hope you have a great night, a great week ahead, and we'll see you next weekend.